Political killings are despite peace accords signed by politicians, indeed. At the signing of the final peace accord by presidential candidates and their party chairman, the chairman of the National Peace Committee raised concerns about the violations of the peace accord.
There was some lack of compliance by the major political parties. 44% of the violations were carried out by the spokesperson of the political parties, 26% by party members, 19% by the presidential candidates themselves, 11% by hardcore supporters, and 4% by the chairman of the parties. Your Excellencies, since the start of the official campaign on the 20th of September 2022, there have been 60 attacks recorded on political rallies, resulting in 9 fatalities, with the highest number in the southwest and southeast, and the lowest in the northeast and north central. This is according to data collated by the Nigerian Election Violence Tracker.
Well, we're now being joined by Father Atta Barkindo, who is the Executive Director at the Kuka Center. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you so much.
I wonder how it comes to you listening to the convener of the National Peace Committee, former head of state Abdulsalam Abubakar, reel out, the level of breach of the peace accord. What would you say? I mean, why would you say that this peace accord is being, observed in the breach to a very large extent? What is responsible for that?
First of all, my heart goes out to the families, particularly for those who have been killed. I mean, it's completely unnecessary. And it's sad that having had series of strategic meetings, even with political parties and the candidates ahead of this signing, these violations have been seen. And I think it is important for people to understand that the clauses of the peace accord itself is not different from Nigerian laws. It's not different from the Constitution. It's not different from the Electoral Act. In fact, we got inspiration from the Constitution and the Electoral Act. And I think for me, what the Peace Committee has successfully done is to cut out the job for the police and other security agencies. We have committed the politicians and the parties. We have gotten the data. We have made that public. It is not the responsibility of the Peace Committee to go about arresting people. There are other agencies whose constitutional authority it is to go and carry out what is necessary. So I think the Peace Committee has made its own contribution. It's really very sad, but we are not going to give up. We are very, very hopeful that one day this country will become better.
One of the aspects that should also concern Nigerians is to look at the attitude and the body language of these politicians when you approach them. Do you suffer any kind of hiccups before you will finally see the signing publicly before everyone?
Absolutely. I could give you an example. During the off-season elections, one of the most difficult states we encounter, and I'm not surprised what is coming out from the southeast, was Anambra State. You remember the level of assassination before the governorship election. Literally, on behalf of the Peace Committee, I visited almost every local government. I spoke to all the governorship candidates. We had meetings, and I had letters from General Salam pleading with them to come to the table because of the issue of sit at home, and we are worried whether the governorship elections will happen in the first place. So yes, sometimes it's difficult to have access to them. Sometimes it is very, very difficult to sit down and have conversations, because I think the contestation for power in Nigeria can really be very tough. A lot of people may not be aware, mobilizing the resources, having the attention of these politicians, because their own direction is just on the power. And that's why being consistent with the ideology of a particular political party has become very, very difficult for them. So as Bishop Kuka would say, most of the parties are just a conveyor belt to power. If you are not being conveyed to power, then you jump to another political party. So it's really very, very difficult. And I think that restructuring the parties, ensuring that there are accountability mechanisms within the parties and that there's consistency in ideology will be very critical to sustaining democracy in Nigeria.
A very good point you make there. But when you hear from the General Abdul Salam Abubakar, you know, breaking down those who actually, you know, breached this peace. I mean, 44% the spokespersons of the political parties, 26% the party members, 11% just 11% the hardcore supporters. I wonder, what do you make of that? Because when you hear people say, look, the politicians should rein in their supporters and what have you, apparently from this breakdown, it's the gladiators themselves that are responsible for this.
If you remember very well, in 2015, there was only one peace accord that was signed because of the tension and the anxiety that created, the kind of insults when you know, then President Buhari was contesting against Jonathan. And that was why the Peace Committee now initiated 2 peace accords, one at the beginning of the campaign to call the attention of politicians to base their campaigns on issues that are very fundamental to the heart of Nigeria, and to avoid, you know, personal attacks, individual insults, you know, all this. We expected that it will run, but unfortunately it did not. And all Nigerians are witnesses to the personal insults and the attacks, sometimes even at the very mundane level. It is really very sad. We want to inject some level of civility and respect and decency in conversations.
And in injecting that, it may not come easy because you need the buying of the people. At what point do you get the support of agencies of government like the National Orientation Agency and the likes? Because time was when we had a vibrant NOA and, you recall then, MAMSA.
Absolutely, but of course, all these agencies now suffer, you know, challenges with budget. Now that we have cash issues, we have issues of fuel scarcity and all that. And I think there's also so much concentration at the national level, at the presidential level, to the point that people forget even what is happening in the states. So if these agencies don't function well at the national level, you can imagine how they will function at the state level, where people may not even be able to speak English. You have to reach out to them in Igbo, in Hausa, in Yoruba, and other local languages that are very, very important. So we have to collaborate, but of course, the structural challenges in this country are evident. But as I say, we are very hopeful that things will get better.
Is the peace accord under threat? Have politicians learned any lessons from the past?
I think there's an increasing importance to the peace accord beyond the signing. For example, the one we had on Wednesday, you can see the fact that we are able to put the presidential candidates together 2 days to the election with all the tension. I think it was really very soothing and very calming.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us. Father Barkindo is the Executive Director, National Peace Committee.